What's the most significant error you managed to avoid during your teenage years? Tell me in the comments what mistake you experienced in your experience. Have fun watching. Story 1. I was engaged at 16 and he left me for my now ex-best friend. I dodged a bullet. Homie looks like a moblin, is apparently an alcoholic, and bounces from fast food job to fast food job because he hates it. Some of my friends are still friends with him, so they think I want updates 15 years later for some reason. LOL. Story 2. An acquaintance of a friend was doing heroin, the friend too, but I didn't know at the time. Acquaintance offered to me multiple times. I was 15, but thankfully knew better as my sister was an addict. My life would be absolute hell if I'd accepted, and realistically, I'd probably be dead by now. Story 3. I was so terrified to drink that I didn't even try liquor until I was 19 or 20. My parents were not good at stopping, but they drank rarely, so the few times they did were a bit traumatic even though nothing happened. I also didn't smoke weed until I was probably 25. My husband said it's not a big deal, it's legal, might as well try. So I did, and that's when I learned that what I thought weed would be like was more close to the effects of acid. I lived pretty straight edge in my teen years. My only vice was teen sex, I guess. Story 4. Drinking and experimenting with drugs. There was a lot of pressure in my school and at home. My brother always pushed me to try different kinds of drugs, and my dad even said I should try pot. I have a very addictive personality. I knew if I ever started, that I would probably never stop. I was right too. Started drinking at 21-ish. It's a pretty regular thing now. I started smoking pot at 25, and have done it almost every day since. I have definitely noticed the difference in my attitude and memory since starting. Some good, some bad. I'm glad I didn't start in my teens, though. I doubt I ever would have gotten away from there had I. Story 5. Smoking. From my 15s to my 19s, my friend group consisted on me and another 4 people. The other 4 smoked a lot. Every time we were out, they offered, but I declined every time. They made it look like I wasn't cool for that, and you know how important it is to be cool for a teenager. Still dodged that, even at parties. Now I am getting closer to my 40 AS and still haven't smoked a cigarette, while my used-to-be friends still smoke hard and are not able to quit. Story 6. Smoking cigarettes. Still cigarette-free at 44. I can vividly recall the day one of my friends obtained a pack of Camel Lights. A group of us were riding our bikes in my neighborhood and decided to stop at our little park. We all walked, what we thought was far and out of sight from the road, and one by one, my buddies tried a puff. For some reason, I elected not to try. I believe I said something along the lines of, "I don't want that on my resume." I was 12. My friend Tammy's mom happened to be driving past the park and saw a huge plume of smoke hovering over us, and we thought we were being inconspicuous. Anyways, I'm impressed with my 7th grade self because a number of those friends ended up longtime smokers. I wouldn't consider myself a woman of willpower, but I think someone up above was looking out for me. I always get a kick out of that memory and love that I stuck with my decision, even after all these years. Story 7. Getting pregnant and drug addiction. I went through the foster system and spent a lot of time on the streets, even as a kid when I was supposed to be in someone's care, and someone was probably collecting checks that they were supposed to be using to take care of me. I saw firsthand how drugs affected people, the peace it gave them at first, and the destruction that quickly followed. I also saw how so many kids started having babies and either getting them taken away or getting into situations where they should have been taken away but no one cared enough to bother, and the absolutely disgusting, depraved situations that followed. I never got into drugs, have no kids, and have no intention to change either of those things. Ever. Story 8. I didn't get someone pregnant or get any STDs or STIs despite a plethora of unprotected sex. I only had sex with people I was in a relationship with, but still. I never did any drugs or smoke, didn't even try weed until I was 22. Only got drunk once, and boy, was it a doozy. My friends and I would go to or host small parties, but we were pretty responsible kids. Nothing ever really happened as a result of these parties. I never went to jail or got into trouble. I had plenty of speeding tickets, but I didn't get caught for street racing. I avoided a lot. Story 9. I managed to avoid smoking, vaping, or just drugs in general. I can't stand the smell of cigarette smoke. Shit just repulses me. Same largely goes for vapes. Even if I wanted to get into it, I don't think I could because I hate the smell that much. At my first job, our assistant manager would always go on a smoke break out back and would come back in fucking reeking of cigs. Given that I worked in a small GameStop, that counter wasn't ever big enough to allow me to escape the stench, and my only reprieve was when she told me to go into the back to look for something, usually to grab a console. Story 10. I drank responsibly among other things. IDK, I can't really say I was that responsible because yeah, I wasn't doing like drugs or anything, but I burnt a house down and hid from the cops a lot on some hooligan shit. So like I can't really speak. In my defense, I wasn't trying to burn the house down and nobody was living there at the time, and the embers relit overnight because the friend I was with didn't put it out right, so like, story 11, being thrown in jail. The crap I did that was illegal. Threw bolt bombs into traffic, causing large crashes. Bolt bomb, 2 bolts with a butt between with match tips inside nut. Building pipe bombs and blowing up mailboxes. Blowing up propane tanks with pipe bombs. Building a crossbow using a 4x4 post and the leaf spring from an F-350. And shooting 3-4 rebar into trees, dropping hundreds of super bouncing balls into rush hour traffic from under a bridge on an interstate. Having a BB gun war in my backyard. And that was the tame crap. Story 12. I grew up in a small suburb in the Midwest. There wasn't much to do, I was 16, so me and my buddies would smoke cigs and ditch weed in the garage of a cool older girl's house. She was 18. All my buddies respected the older girl because she was hip to good music, smart and pretty. Well, one day, we are all hanging out in the garage listening to music when some older kids show up. They were in their early 20s. They wanted to hang out with older girl. They would playfully tease us younger guys, and they knew we couldn't do anything about it. You could just tell they wanted me and my friends to leave so they could be with the older girl. So my buddies and I stuck around, and the older guys end up going inside of the older girl's house while she stayed in the garage with us. You could tell she was upset with the situation. I have to pee really bad, so I go inside the house. After I get done, I walk out into the kitchen where all the older guys are burning some aluminum foil. I have no idea what's going on. So I ask, "What is that?" "It's fun, you should try this," one the guys say to me as he tries to pass it my way. I didn't know anything about meth. I had never seen it or witnessed the results of people that get hooked, not until many years later. I wanted to be accepted by the cooler older guys. I was very open-minded about drugs because I was only 16 and already kind of bored with life, so I thought, maybe this new drug will make me happy. Just then the older girl stormed through the garage door and slaps the meth from that guy's hand. She then proceeds to berate all the older guys. One guy in particular. She said something about how small his penis is and his mom being a tweaker slut. You could tell that guy sorta lost some respect from his peers and for himself that day. She then kicked them all out while my buddies laughed at those older losers. I didn't realize at the time how great my friends were. We just all kinda knew that we should stand up for each other. Sorry for the long story. Story 13. Going down the spiral of the party life. Considering the friends I had, most of them were avid drinkers and drug users. Thank whatever God may be for my morals and my education, I didn't join them in their drug-fueled spiral, or I'd be just like them. 28-year-old with no real job, trying to find one of those bullshit gigs that guarantee money. So basically just scams or insurance. No home of their own. Unstable relationships with girls equally as deranged as them, while going out every other day to party in clubs doing every kind of drug imaginable, squandering what little money they have and at the same time praising that kind of life, while actively losing brain cells each passing day. Story 14. I was at a party at a friend's house. It got pretty wild. After about 4 hours, we ran out of beer. A couple of guys were getting in a car and headed to the store to get more alcohol. I was just about to hop in the car when I said, "You know what, I think I'm gonna go home." Long story short, they got in a fight with a couple of guys, and everyone went to jail. I was at home sleeping soundly. Story 15. Didn't start smoking. At one point, when I was about 13, I found a box of cigarettes in my house and decided to try smoking. I got my bike and headed towards a nearby dead-end road where there was a private spot. On my way there, while going down a hill, I skidded on gravel and scraped my knee badly, so I turned around and went home and put the cigarettes back in the living room drawer I found them in. I still have the scar, and I never did try smoking. I'm almost 70. Story 16. I never did drugs or drank alcohol as a teenager. Didn't have sex with somebody random at prom because I felt pressured to. Never bullied the shit out of people because others said it was cool. Didn't get pregnant, which probably has something to do with the not having sex part. Never got into horrible car accident after stealing the family car. I have no idea. I don't know what stupid things teenagers still do, but I didn't do them. I was too busy working jobs while going to school and raising my siblings. Story 17. While I was really sad and regretful at the time, I didn't do drugs, drink, behave recklessly, or hang with a bad crowd in high school, especially after transferring high schools after freshman year. I also didn't date, which, while in hindsight it would have given me some great foundation in how to date, has led to me having a very clear head while dating, a lot of independence, and an appreciation for good, healthy relationships. Story 18. I did not get pregnant. Honestly, I didn't even have sex till I was 17, which was late. I was the last one of all of my friends. I don't even remember how my mom did this as a single mom, and I wish I knew because I want to instill this in my children. Both my sister and I just knew. I don't remember having any big conversation or any discussion or any huge threat or anything. We just knew that that was something that you did with somebody that you loved and somebody who cared for you, somebody felt comfortable with. So I had like 1 or 2 instances when I was 14 or 15. I like fooling around with a guy at a party and I'm trying to do stuff. And I was just like, nope, not gonna happen. It just wasn't a casual thing for me. When I was 17, I was 100% in love, and I am 44 years old now. And I can still say to this day that that guy was my first love. I was truly in love, and so is he. And we were careful and smart about it. I feel kind of proud of myself that I wasn't silly or stupid or impulsive when I came to sex as a teenager. Story 19. It was very late at night, and I was with 2 other guys. We finished off the 12-pack of beer we had, but they still wanted more. One of the guys worked at a pizza joint that had plenty of beer on hand, and he said he figured out how to unlatch one of the back doors from the outside with a pocket knife. I wanted nothing to do with it and walked home. Apparently he did know how to unlatch that back door from the outside, but did not know anything about the silent alarm the owner always set just before leaving for the night. They came out of the place carrying a lot of beer and found themselves surrounded by police with guns pointed at them. Story 20. Being a bitch to my mom. My family was going through a hard time when I was a teenager, and while I said some snarky things that still make me feel guilty, I am glad I held back most of the time and realized that I would be taking my anger out on her, an angel who was trying to do her best for our family. She's a great mom. I'm glad I never said anything I could never take back. Story 21. I knew a guy. In high school, we were good friends, bonded over our mutual poverty. Anyways, one day he asked if I want to go to Subway. He has a BOGO coupon. Amazing. WWE kept going after school every time he got that coupon. One day he asked if I want to go. I passed. Did my thing, got home. Next day people are looking at me. Teachers were looking for me. Cops came to my class and got me. Asked what I was doing, etc., etc. Anyways, he shot 2 people with a shotgun while in a car that night. To this day, true crime podcasts will reach out. I'm too embarrassed to tell them. It wasn't a vibe. Nothing alerted me. I never got a gut feeling. I didn't go because I'm gay. And a girl asked if I want to come watch a movie, and hell yes, I did. I avoided a murder charge or witnessing a murder. My God. Edit. Yes, that's him. For those who DM'd me. And yes, it was over under $20. Poverty. Story 22. I grew up in a small town, and I'm gonna go with not staying there. I know some people who never left and settled down to a decent if mundane life, and a few like me who threw caution to the wind and struck out into the wide world and lived a life I never could have imagined back then. Over the holidays, I met up with an old friend who stayed, went out for a bite and a couple beers at the local bar where he always went, met the other people who never left. He's made a decent life, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I gotta hang out backstage with rock stars, jump out of airplanes, drive race cars, and stand atop an ancient pyramid in the middle of a jungle. I'd never have done any of that if I'd stayed in town and settled down with that girl from chemistry class. Story 23. I'm 35 and I did all the drugs for many years. And then I had my kid at 24 and pulled my head out of my ass. The thing is, I did all that shit before fentanyl was around. If this shit had have been around back in the day myself, and all my friends would be dead. I feel like a cowboy who rode off into the sunset. No felonies. I don't even drink now. But man, people even messing around with a little coke can get you killed. I personally know upwards of 10 people who died that way. Fentanyl needs to be stopped. Story 24. The day I turned 18, a group of my friends asked if I wanted to go hang out to smoke weed. I had to work in the morning, and they had a habit of getting into trouble, so I dipped out. The next day, I heard that they decided to smoke in this old greenhouse in a nearby park. The cops showed up. They all got arrested for B&E and ended up spending a while in jail. They avoided a felony charge as 2 of them had wealthy parents, and the DA knocked it down, but I'm sure it was really expensive, and they did have the misdemeanor on their record after that. That was actually pretty good for me, as it was the motivation I needed to get out of town and away from that mess. Been gone 25 years now. Some of them are dead. None of them really did much with their lives. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Be sure to write comments and share your stories.